Hi, we're Snuti, I'm Krister.
And I'm Claire.
And on this channel, we talk about game development and we're sharing our journey as we're going along.
Oh yeah!
So today we're going to be doing the post-mortem of the life of Mr. Pips. And we have a few points we want to go through. We have learned a lot making this project and we want to share those learnings with you guys.
So we decided to actually launch The Life of Mr. Pips as paid instead of just, going ahead and releasing it free as we were thinking about doing originally. So that's thanks to actually everybody on Discord and Twitch, etc. that really motivated us to launch it and release it for paid.
And we have learned so much more because of it, because it's not the same launching a free game compared to a paid one. So where are we going, Claire?
So I think we're first of all going to say about how well The Life of Mr. Pips actually did.
Okay, we're going to start off with the good stuff.
Start with the good stuff, the positive stuff, and then we're going to talk about all of the other stuff that we learned we did wrong, etc.
Yeah, we didn't have very high expectations for the game.
No.
We set out that we wanted to sell 50 copies, is what we said.
And we managed to achieve that within the first week, so we're very happy that we managed that.
Yeah, so first week we sold 61 copies of the game, and then all through lifetime now we've sold 83 copies.
83! And if you still want to buy Life of Mr. Pips, then you know where to find it. It's on our itch, and we're going to put it down below somewhere, hopefully.
And we're very impressed with our Strawberry, who has, done so well. And it's been surprising who's been buying the game as well. Because it's been a lot of people we don't consider necessarily gamers and stuff who's been getting back to us and say hey, this is cool.
But that's one of the benefits of itch, was itch allowed you to actually, buy the game without having to have a proper account, which was really nice for friends and family members who didn't have a Steam account or any other type of account like Epic, etc.
So in that manner, we think that itch is a much more accessible platform compared to more traditionally than Steam, even though there's probably a much larger audience on Steam. So why didn't our game sell thousands of copies? That's probably...
Because The Life of Mr. Pips should have sold 1,000 copies, right? So please go buy 1,000 copies, guys.
And I would say it's not about the platform we launched on, itch or whether it's Steam or whichever, because there is an underlying problem with this game. Or the thing is, the game has fulfilled its purpose. The purpose of the game was for us to learn, right? Yes. It was a learning project for us to be able to ship a game from start to finish.
And also, don't launch a game 2 weeks before the due date of having a baby. That is not recommended. That's a pro tip right there.
Exactly. But we did it.
We did it.
And it's so hard to launch.
What went right? That's the question. What went right?
What went right?
So that was actually sharing our process as we were going along on Twitch, on YouTube, and even as well on Twitter. Just being able to have it out there was a great form of, marketing rather than just having to go around to press, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also really enjoyed sharing the process along the way, having all the people come in and help us.
And adding Easter eggs, come on.
Yeah, you guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for, hanging out with us and being there. It's been the best streaming this process, and I think that's added a lot to the game. We also see that from who are the ones interested in buying it, and it was a lot with the people who want to support us. Yeah. And you saw that also on itch, because on itch you're allowed to pay for more than the price tag of the game. And a lot of people were tipping bonuses, and quite generous ones as well. And that made actually quite a big difference for us. We also shared our process here on YouTube, as well as Twitch, which was saying. I think that when it comes to YouTube devlogs, we didn't see much return on the efforts we put into that. The most effective devlog seems to be if you really make them entertainment-oriented. And some good examples of those are, Danny, for one. But Randy, Pointy Pants, Jonas, Blackthorn, there's lots of really good ones. But they're high effort, take a lot of time. And
that's something we didn't quite have.
Yeah, so we didn't prioritize it as heavily for us. But what we are planning to continue prioritizing is definitely streaming.
Yeah.
And because it's a very intimate and enjoyable process to build to build a community and hang out with your friends. So I think it works out really well. And we also see that with other game developers as well.
Yeah. One of the things that was a real benefit was doing the closed beta just a few weeks before we were actually going to launch. So we could get all the bug fixes done and dusted, and also get a bit of feedback on how we could improve the game within enough time to actually do it, and without having thousands of bits of feature creep.
And that was one thing that went really well with our game. I think we launched pretty much bug-free. We
had one minor bug.
Yes. And that we patched up pretty quickly. And thank you guys for finding that issue. But it was like an edge case with a loading thing, so no problem. But also helps with this game was quite basic.
It was, yeah.
And that was always the intention. It was just make something which is feasible. And we realized then how hard it is to make even something simple.
And we can understand as well how a lot of people struggle to release a game. So just do something, get started, finish a game, just get it out there, just do it.
I think we are on to what went wrong.
Oh no.
Yeah.
We don't like that part. We don't like that part. What went wrong?
So the next section for today is what obviously was the challenges that Mr. Pips was facing. Why didn't he sell, as I was saying earlier, 1,000 copies or be a, get lots of press coverage, etc.
I mean, he's the cutest little strawberry in the entire world and he didn't get enough.
And the people who played Mr. Pips, they had generally really nice feedback and really enjoyed the experience. So I think we were onto something.
And I'm pretty sure someone is going to be writing, yes, a paper all about, the different topics and philosophies in the life of Mr. Pips.
We see you. Yeah. I wonder. So I think the number one issue that Miss Pips was facing was the fact that this game was not made for a specific target audience. It was just a game we made to learn. So we just made whatever we felt we wanted to make.
Yeah.
And we didn't have in mind a specific person or a specific player or what they wanted.
We were kind of following a bit of like what a short hike does, and we're like, that's a cool concept, let's roll with that. But it wasn't quite, we didn't do the market research required for actually making a proper game that's going to be earning millions.
And even that is a very niche game. So I think like a much better approach, which we're going to be doing with our next game, or have been doing actually the last few weeks, that is figuring out what the player wants. Where are these players? What do they like? If they like, X game, they will like my game because they have these similarities, or people like familiar things in a new wrapping. So I think that's an important thing when you're making games, to have a strong plan with it.
One of the things was we didn't have a plan after launch. Don't do that. End of. When we actually launched the game, we kind of suffered a little bit from a bit of burnout. So we only planned like tweets for maybe a week afterwards. And we didn't get in contact with many people for press releases, etc. And that was a bad idea. We realized that we were burnt out. We didn't want to really focus on it. And with, just 2 weeks until the baby was about to arrive, we were a bit like, let's just relax.
So we think the best thing is rather delay your launch. Obviously, make enough space for it and don't make delays. But have a finished game early and then work, for example, the final month or more with the finished game, and then just do the preparation of publishing the launch. Have the contacts with the different news outlets, etc. So have that all ready to go. And that's one thing, because afterwards, after launch, it was just so hard to pick it up. Like
You're tired.
Yeah.
You're tired.
And you get so much feedback and you just keep responding to it. So that's what your energy has been spent on.
Yeah, so we were responding to comments on itch all of the time, and that just takes all of your energy on Twitter, everything. And I was just like, I'm tired now.
Yeah. So then you can't be curating. You got to do that before the launch.
Yep. We didn't actually get featured on itch.
That was a bit unfortunate.
Yeah.
Considering we were an itch exclusive, we really were hoping for it.
But it didn't work out. And we also didn't get featured by a lot of websites or news article streamers, things like that. Mostly because we didn't actually get in contact with many people about it. And that was our own fault. So I highly recommend you do that.
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely recommended. But we did follow the guidelines of how to get featured on itch, which it's pretty vague, but we did those steps.
Yeah.
But it still didn't click for us.
But we were actually very lucky to have got the Life of Mr. Pips featured on Julia Strater's streams and also 𝗟𝗓𝗡𝗦𝗢.
Yes.
So that actually drove a lot of traffic to the Life of Mr. Pips and a few sales. And it was really funny to actually see somebody else playing the game.
Yeah, it was really great streams, and also being able to, for ourselves as well, to jump in as commentary, etc. From the developer's point of view. But we didn't take contact with streamers up front.
Nope. They got in contact with us.
They got in contact with us, yeah.
So, yeah.
That's certainly a mistake. You should try to build out your network and have a plan beforehand.
Yes. Not releasing on multiple platforms. We only released on itch because we were thinking, if we're going to release on Steam, we want to do it properly. We don't want to just do it like a month or a week or two before a baby is due. It just wouldn't have done any justice to Life of Mr. Pips. But we think that we probably would have got more sales had we actually published on other platforms.
But at the same time, we thought there was maybe more underlying issues that rushing a Steam launch wouldn't have made the big difference. So rather set that to the future. And also, interesting aspect of game development is that you can do staggered launches. What if you have a content update you can launch on a new platform? And I think that's a very good, interesting approach.
But yes, one thing we've learned is make a checklist before the launch date and afterwards. So you know exactly what you're going to do when you feel exhausted and you don't want to do it.
So let's straight jump on over to the Q&A section, shall we?
Yes, we have 2 questions lined up.
Yes.
And then I'm going to try and go through what everybody else has said and see what we're missing.
The chat has been pretty busy.
So we actually had a question from 𝗧𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗠𝗣, who said, my question is, how did it work with the both of you working on the same project? How was the workload distributed? I guess you can't both code simultaneously.
Well, let's prove you wrong, because we do code simultaneously.
We do pair programming. So we did everything pretty much on one computer, with a few exceptions of just doing some scenes, some world building, etc. for Life of Mr. Pips on the other computers.
But obviously, in most scenarios, you would not be doing pair programming. You'd probably be very efficient to work. You delegate your tasks and set the requirements. But as long as you have Git, it should work out quite well. And also, if you're especially working in Unity, make sure you're not working in the same scene, because resolving merge conflicts in the same scene is quite tricky.
That's only if you're using Unity. I don't know whether it's the same with Unreal or any other engines, but yeah.
Okay, we have a question in from Z. How many times did you dream about berries during the development? Every night.
I didn't at all. I'm sorry. It didn't. We also had another question, why itch? So we just did it for itch because it was the lowest barrier. We were able to release Mr. Pips without having to worry about anything. Whereas with Steam, obviously you need to pay a little bit of money up front, and we want to do it properly because Steam is huge.
Yes.
And we wanted to prepare and do everything for that, which we obviously didn't have time.
So also about testing your market, it's very common with, for example, games to launch in a region which is not their main target audience in order to see how well it performs, and then learn from that launch in this region, and then launch to your main audience later.
Yeah.
And then see the response. And you can say that's kind of what we did, except we didn't have the plan to continue after that.
Yeah. So from Shine Deagle, he said, what area of development did you spend the most when making the game? Art, music, design, etc. Making the world.
Yeah, content. Content is king, and it takes the most time. It's not developing the systems, not making the...
I think in comparison to the amount of code written and the amount of time we actually tried to write the story, I think we rewrote the story for Life of Mr. Pips 3 times. So yeah, it takes a really long time to do that element. So if you're doing any form of game which has story or a big world, take into consideration it's probably going to be 80% of the time is dedicated towards doing that.
Yeah. Right, Casual Game Studio. Hello, what's the one biggest thing you would change about Mr. Pips' development? I think we did it the right way, considering it was our first game. And that was the point of the whole project, was to figure that out. I don't think I would change the process. It was about making a small game and shipping it, and it did that.
And one thing we did is if we had feature creep or anything, but like, oh yeah, we really want to add that in, but it doesn't matter to the game right now. We just want to ship the game. We just dropped it. And we noted it down as something that maybe we'd do in the future. So
in terms of, you could say, what we would change about future development, there's quite a lot of things. And we've taken with us all those lessons. And it's quite a few of the things we mentioned here today as well.
Joy said, were you worried that it wouldn't catch on?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
That's
why we had low sales numbers. It's like, yeah, 50 copies, that's enough. You know, we're never ever going to reach that. We thought, I at the beginning had very little faith in the Life of Mr. Pips.
Even 50 you thought was impossible.
Exactly.
Right. You didn't even want to make it about the strawberry.
I thought a strawberry would be boring.
Yeah.
I take it back. But I think also quite a lot of the hype around Mr. Pips itself was actually us doing Twitch and YouTube and Twitter, etc. I think had we not done that, he wouldn't have been as popular.
How much time did you spend, or am I skipping one now? Wait a second.
We've done that one.
Yeah.
Retsa.
When you're working on a project, what roles do each of you take? Do you share roles as a programmer, designer, etc., or do you already have designated roles? And that's something we do quite different. We do everything. We are potatoes, as we call it here. And I think that's a very valuable aspect, because sometimes games need a lot of writing. It needs a lot of designing, it needs a lot of coding, and it often comes in chunks. And like, yeah, you can't work everything in parallel.
And also, Krister, he's really good at Blender. I'm not. So I've been learning a lot from him and watching how he's doing it. And then I can do it by myself on the PC and just, fix things up later. But it's really good to work together so we can think about the best possible way, especially with programming, like how are we going to do this? What's the best way? And you don't make as many mistakes then.
And we learned this lesson actually from the very first game back in 2012 we were working on for 2 years that we never shipped, never launched because it never finished.
Because I did all the artwork.
And I did all the coding.
And that wasn't,
The game,
I was finished way before Krista was finished.
Yeah. That was a coding heavy game and it was just too much coding.
Didn't work out.
Yeah. So we changed that approach. So how much time did you spend in pre-production for Mr. Pips? The answer to that is a week. I think so.
Yeah,
around
we spent very little time. I think we're just like, let's just make a game quickly. We'll be done in about a month's time.
Yeah, wrote the story in a day, which ended up being rewritten so many times. Very little pre-production, and that's fine if you're making a game which is just to learn.
Yeah.
But once you're planning to go into real production, I think it's a good idea to do proper pre-production. That includes your market research, and that's the phase we're in right now with our next game.
Yep.
So be following us on that journey as we continue.
Compared to the final product, how different was the initial design version, says Shiny Eagle.
Very different. Wildly different.
Very different.
It's an endless sense of feature creep. We thought it was going to be a 2-month project, maybe 1 to 2 months.
1 to 2 months, yeah.
Down the line, we realized it's going to take a year, and it took a year.
It did take a year. So, but it could have probably taken a lot longer had we decided to let in the feature creep.
Yeah.
Because Krista and I had thousands of new ideas, like, just add in quests, let's add in this, let's add in that.
And the stream wanted as well, these ideas as well. But we had to put the line somewhere and really do that. And your game will do just fine. You gotta ship it, it's more important. And then add it later in a future content update.
And after doing the Bracky's game jam together with Z and Nick, they both know that everybody needs a _Klaire because a _Klaire makes sure that put everybody on track so you don't let feature creep into the woodworks.
Yes, so it's good to have personalities which match it rather well. _Klaire is very organized.
_Klaire.
And I'm doing it now without thinking about it.
It's like a building project. The decorator has to wait while the builders work. It's highly inefficient.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why you've got to work on bee potatoes. Is that said something in English?
Oh, I think it's jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades, that's the word.
Okay. And Anderson said, can you use some of the systems from Mr. Pips in your future games to save time?
The answer is probably definitely no.
It's probably really bad scripts, so no.
And we designed it that way because we want to just be fast and dirty with it, as it was a learning project, and then move quickly and take the lessons properly rather than going back and refactoring. We almost never refactored in Mr. Pips, and I'm glad we didn't, because if we did, we'd spend more time on refactoring and perfecting the code. I don't think we would have reused it anyway.
No, we wouldn't have. And especially like for our next game, we expect to obviously have quests in it, but we're not going to probably code that ourselves. We're probably going to use, an asset or a tool, etc. And that's what we're trying to learn. And that's why we're prototyping at the moment with our next game, is utilizing different tools and seeing, will it be good for us for the project, like right from the get-go, rather than like halfway through the project. That's
also what many people recommend. Is like when you make your first game or your early things, work without assets. And then in the future, once you know how to do it in the basics, then incorporate assets into your workflow. Right.
Was making the life of Mr. Pips fun? In my experience, 50% is not fun at all. How is it with you two? It's a lot of fun. I think mostly what made it fun was being able to stream it every Saturday with everybody. It's been a lot of fun doing that and having some weird bugs happening with the game. I think one of the part which maybe wasn't the most fun, and I think this is for a lot of people, is the marketing.
Yeah, it's the things which you are less good at, less familiar with. Those are tedious often, and often for us creatives, we're not that interested in like sharing it. So that can get really tedious, but things as you get better at it, it becomes more fun and comfortable. And that's including streaming. Like right now, we're having a good time. A year ago, we weren't necessarily having that great a time. We were
struggling.
It was hard, right? But as you get more skillful at something, then it becomes more fun.
Yeah. And _Klaire makes great movies. No, thank you. Thank you.
We need a demo.
Can you reuse any code? No, burn it. Yes.
Burn it with fire. Yes, definitely. I think also like you learned so much, the fact that you wouldn't want to reuse that code. Like, your experience is so far beyond that.
Did anyone ask the obligatory question yet? If you were to make Mr. Pips again, what would you have done differently? No, nobody's asked that yet, see?
Well, it kind of was a version of that question earlier.
Ish.
If we would have done anything differently during the development of the game. But if we were to make the game again, whoa. I think it'd be a very different game.
I think it would be.
Yeah, because that's the whole purpose of Mr. Pips was to become a developer which had published the game.
Yeah.
And if we're making Mr. Pips and we're a developer which should publish a game and have the experience we have, Mr. Pips would definitely have quests.
Definitely quests. It would also have leaf rafting, like races, proper races.
Yeah. And it would have a bigger world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would have a quest to find out what was wrong with the wife and the husband at the beginning of the game.
Yes. So you could decide to resolve that situation and reveal the husband who was just like trying to hide.
Spoiler, we didn't actually have anything for it, but everybody literally wanted to find out what happened between them, and I was like,
yeah.
I don't know.
We will give the world much more life. And one thing like the game didn't even have was expressions. All the characters was like static face.
Which is great. It's fine. They're smiley. They're happy, you know? Right. But yeah, it wasn't great.
But it worked.
It worked. And it had lots of Wii's. Wii's were the winner. And the trailer also did really, really good.
I did have a question. Would it help to boost some sales if you speedrun your game as part of a competition? Well, I think it depends on the type of game.
Yeah.
Mr. Pips, I don't quite see it like...
I'd like to speedrun it, actually.
Yeah, but
we did have a few.
But it didn't it wasn't a speedrunning game.
What surprised you the most about the feedback you got from players? That's what these says.
That they actually liked it, right? And a lot of people were like pleasantly surprised then about the moral of the story. And maybe
find out more about the world. I was like, it's not that special, you know? It's just strawberry in a tiny world. No, we want to find out more. I'm like, oh.
And how people just found it so wholesome and cute.
Yeah, and also another thing was people finding the Pips. They really enjoyed that.
Yeah, collectibles.
And I was like, okay, cool. It's great. But there were people trying to get achievements for it almost. Like, how fast could they find all of the Pips?
That's something I would do different. I would have achievements in the game.
Achievements. But it doesn't have
But some people have been asking us, you said that we were just planning to make short games.
Yes.
What is this change of heart that we're going to be making a 2 to 3 year long game?
Because we want to.
Okay, there's more to it than that. I had a thoughtful answer. And the fact is that we see short games, while they can be pulled off, and PopSock is a great studio of guys who's been actually doing this. Very impressive. Yeah. But it's rare. It's quite rare to find a game which has been developed in a relatively short time span, which is successful. Mostly the bigger games have been developing over multiple years, and I think it's good to maybe learn from those processes and rather imitate those who have found success.
Yeah, that's true. And also there are quite a few people that also managed to do a game jam game and then take a few years afterwards to release that as a fully fledged game. But we just want to make a longer game. We've been wanting to make a crafting game and anything about ice cream for quite some time. And we knew that if we were going to start working on this, it wasn't going to just take 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Games don't take 5 minutes.
Also, probably one thing which we're planning to wrap up with today was a short little thing about our next game.
What was that about?
Just introducing the project.
Oh yeah, introducing the project. Yeah.
So what are we going to be working on next, do you wonder? We are working on a little game, or not little, this one is quite big, for the next 2 to 3 years about the ice cream boat. It's a crafting and exploration game. And don't take the word crafting too literally. It's very light on that. But yeah, you're going to be making a lot of interesting ice creams, and you're going to be in your boat exploring the wilderness and lots of nice islands and meeting interesting inhabitants, which are all cute little animals. We're currently sitting here modeling them. So yeah, be sure to check out for them. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Pips. We love you.
You made him sad.
Yeah. But yeah, you'll be bringing ingredients from the wilderness, strawberries, blueberries, and apples back to your boat, and you'll be putting them together to make lush ice cream, which you'll be bringing with you and selling to the perfect customers around the world. It's going to be, quite a wholesome little game. It's much more inspired by the likes of Stardew Valley and Also, if you take Zelda Breath of the Wild, but without the combat.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's kind of how it plays, in a way.
And without the gliding. You got a boat instead. I mean,
we are considering that, Claire.
Are we considering gliding away?
Yeah. And also, we're going to be
didn't know
3
that.
people on this team if everything works out, because we're trying to apply for funding for this game. So Z, which you see in chat right now, he's going to be joining our team, or he already is actually. And as we're in this pre-production phase right now, trying to figure out exactly what this game is going to be, as we're prototyping it and exploring, how this game is going to pan out. And that's probably a good note to end the Q&A section on.
Yes.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. It's been awesome having you here and hearing all about our story of how Mrs. Pips has done this past year.
And if you like our content, then make sure to
hit that like and subscribe. Smash it if you like. And until next time,
soon.
bye.